Hi all, this is Pradeep. Welcome to my channel. In this video I will help in creating React.js and Spring Boot application. So instead of creating two different projects, like one for backend and one for frontend, here we will try to set up in a single project within a single folder. So the main advantage is when we package this application, we will get a single jar which contains both frontend and backend. So let's get started. I have one checklist. We will follow this checklist here. It has some couple of steps. So these are simple steps. We will follow the steps and finally we will end up with a small jar file which contains both. So let's start. Okay, so we will follow the first step in this checklist, which is clone React.js Spring Boot project. So this is the project which I uploaded into GitHub. I will provide this link in the description. So what this project is, it is pre-configured with some libraries and some dependencies, both backend and front-end. So most common libraries, so for example Spring, DevTools and Lombok, and for React.js Formic, Material UI, React Router. So these basic libraries are pre-configured. These dependencies are already there, and also the integration between the backend and the front end is also done. So that way it is easier to start project using this. So let's first clone this project. I'm copying this URL, going to terminal, and here I'm cloning this. Okay, so this project is created. Here you can see the structure of the project, so which has source. So this folder contains everything related to the Spring Boot, and here UI, so this contains everything related to the React.js, right? So we cloned it, and let's see the next step, right? And rename the project, right? So instead of using this same name, we will rename it to different, let's say to-do list. So just for the demo sake, I will move this project to do list. Okay, so the project is renamed. And one more thing we need to do is let me open this folder in Windows Explorer. So since we changed the project name, so one more place we need to do the changes in pom.xml. Let's open that in Notepad. So here artifact ID, right? So this we need to change. So this is Spring related jar file artifact name. I'm changing it. And also this name of the project. So this is the name of the project. So I am changing this one too. So I'm saving it. So everything within this POM, right, is basic. So I generated this project using Spring start.spring.io. So this is a standard pom.xml file. So if you see, there are dependencies like starter web, DevTools and Lombok, right? And one more, see, these are the only dependencies we have in this pom.xml. And one more important plugin which I wanted to show is front-end Maven plugin. So because since we are integrating both backend and UI within a single project, and this plugin will help us to set up UI, like if you want to run any like build, npm build, so this plugin will help us to do that through Maven command prompt. So that's the advantage of this. We can do couple of settings here. See, for example, here I configured node version. So what this plugin will do is it will download node and also npm both into local folder instead of global. So we are not touching your global like the system level node version or npm. So these both versions will be downloaded within the project itself. So if you want to change, we can change it here. So the node and npm versions both can be changed. And here you can see working directory is UI. So this is what I'm showing here, right? This is the working directory. And sorry, where is this pom.xml? Yeah, here it is. So install directory. So once we do package at the time, what we are doing is we are moving everything, the build npm, whatever the node npm did, the build files, the public files will be copied into the target folder. But we will see how it works. But for now, just think this as just basic dependencies here, Spring dependencies, and on top of that, front-end Maven plugin is configured. So these are the important things you need to consider. Let me save it again and close it. Okay, now let's go to Windows Explorer and okay, sorry, before that let's check our task. So this is done, and the next one is remove.git folder. So let's go back to the folder. Here you can see .git. So this is because since we cloned it from this template project, so and we are renaming it into different project, now we no more need this old .git, right? So we can just simply delete it. And if you want to create initiate a new git project, you can just come into this project, like from terminal, just move into to-do list, and you can initiate it again, git init. So this will create again .git folder, which will be empty, and it is a fresh start for your project. One more thing, one more advantage is we already have .git ignore, so it contains everything. Like for me, for example, let's open this in a notepad. So this covers everything, like filtering Java related files and also filtering UI related files, whatever node modules, which is a huge one. So no need to add anything else in this git ignore, so which is already covered, right? Okay, so now we removed .git and we recreated a new git folder, so which is like new project creation. So that is done. Let's check this one too. Okay, so we completed first section of this checklist. So application creation is completed, right? Now we move to the next section, that is running the application. So for this, we go to terminal and we will do the fresh Maven clean install, right? So let's go to the terminal. I'm already in the project directory. So let's see what files we are having here. So we already have Maven W file, so which is you no need to have Maven in your system. So because this covers everything, like this contains the whole Maven. So let's execute that. Maven W install. So since we are doing first time, so it will take time to download all the dependencies. Here you can see a couple of things like installed node locally, installing npm version. So here you can see the versions in the node and npm versions, they are getting installed in local. So here you can see npm installed npm locally, so that is also done, and it is running npm install within UI folder. So it will download everything related to the React.js. So all the dependencies will be downloaded. On top of that, it also downloads Spring dependencies, right? All the dependencies will be downloaded and compiled. So let's wait for it. Since this is the first time, it will take some time. Okay, so I unpause the video here, and the build is still going on. UI is completed and now the Spring is going on. Okay, the Spring is also completed. The build is successful. Now we got everything needed for the project. So let's open it in a code, right? In a visual code, that will be easier for us to edit. Okay, so we have whole project in the Visual Studio Code now. So UI, you see build is generated, build folder is generated, which contains everything, index.html and all the files whichever needed to which we can publish, right? So that is the UI, and the node modules is generated, which contains all the dependencies for the React.js. And we installed, so the target contains the jar file. So before that, let's run backend and front end, and we will see each individual component, and then we'll come back to the target and we will see what happened there, right? And here the source contains all the Java backend related files. App.java is a Spring Boot application class, and there is a small controller, hello controller, default controller, which just returns some string with the date, right? Okay, now let's go back here. We completed this one, we completed the Maven clean install. Then let's run Spring Boot application, right? So for that, I have already Java plugins installed in Visual Code, so for me it is easier to start. I think before that, let's wait for the code to compile the application. I think it is taking some time here. Okay, I can see that compilation is completed. Okay, so I am running this, so we can see application started, and also we can see that it is started on 8080 port, right? That is the default Spring port. Let me open browser here. Now we can access this URL, localhost 8080 / and we have a single controller in this project, right? So we will try to access that. Now we are getting response, so it means the backend is up and we are getting the response. We got this string with date and time, so we are good. So let me close this. Backend is done. So let me go back to checklist. We can check this box. Next, we will run React.js application. To run React.js, right? So we go to new terminal, and within this terminal we move into UI folder. So here we will execute normal. We can execute npm command here directly, because since it is a React based application, we can directly use npm start. So this will start React.js application. Now it is started, and it is React.js open this browser with 3000 port, because since this is a default port for React.js, so it opened this folder, this browser with this IP localhost and the port. And here you can see this string, right? This string is coming, if you remember, in the Spring controller, right? We are returning this string. So now you can see the same string here. So it means the UI and the front end and the back end both are already integrated. So React is making a call to this API internally, and it is getting the response and it is showing on the browser. So let's see how this is happening, but we can conclude that React.js is running, right? So let's go back to our checklist and we can tick this. Now I will tell you how this integration is happening here. Okay, so let's go back to the project. Here we can see the UI folder. So first I created this UI folder, right, based on this tool. So this is a create React app. So React.js recommends us to create a UI project, the React.js project, like this: npx create React app, and whatever the app name we want. So this creates a UI folder and all the files needed. This is a standard way to create or recommended way to create React.js application. So I executed this in my local, and all the files whatever I got from this project, right, from this code or from this command, I copied all files into this UI folder. So we are not missing anything here. So we are following all the standards here. So that is one more advantage of using this project template. So if you see, if you go to source, so this is the app.js. So this is what the first component, this is the app component. If you see the index.js, this is the app component we are loading. This is what we are showing on the UI. So if you go back to app.js, here you can see it has this is the UI component. It has this UI component. First one is, you can see app logo, and then we are displaying this message, right? So if we go back to the UI here, so the logo, and this is the message. So this is the message we are showing, and where this message is coming is, if you see, we are setting that message here, right? So we are setting this message by calling this API endpoint, API/hello. So whatever the response this is getting, that response is saved into the message, and that is displayed on the browser. That's what happening here. So one thing to note is, both are running on different ports. UI is running on 3000 and the backend is running on the 8080 port. So there is a proxy in middle. So UI, when you make any call like this, it will go to 3000 port by default, because React.js is using 3000 port, right? So there is a proxy in middle. So I will show you that proxy. So if you go to package.json, so here you see there is a proxy, and it is configured to the local host 8080 port. So whenever a UI makes any call, so it will be redirected to 8080 port. So that's how this REST endpoint UI is getting the response from the backend. So this is the integration point for both UI and the backend. And one more point to remember is, this will not be problem in a production. There will not be any proxy in the production. When you make a jar file, so now when you deploy a jar file, now the both backend and front end will be running on a single port, either 8080 or maybe any other port, whatever port it may be. So in that case, like, there will be no need of any proxy. We are no more using the proxy once we generate a jar, right? Because the package.json will not be available there. Since both will be running on a single port, so there will not be any need of any proxy, but only this is needed in the dev environment in your local. So let's go back to the checklist. I hope this understands, like this makes sense. So if not, please comment and ask me so I can respond back. Okay, now let's go back to our checklist. So we completed first part and second part, like creation and running the application. Now the final part is packaging this application, right? So let's package and let's create a jar file. So for that, let's go to the code editor, and let's go to the terminal. I will create a new shell here. Within the folder, what we can do is, we can execute a maven command. We can do package, maven package. So this will create the final jar file, which contains everything. Let's see. I started running it, and let's see what it is saying here on the console. So it's already installed, so it is not trying to install it again. It is running Spring test cases. Okay, so package is created. Now let me close this. We'll go back to the target folder. This is the target folder. So jar is created. Now let's open the contents of the, instead of creating the opening this jar, we can just expand this classes folder, because it contains all the items from this classes folder, right? So here you can see there are two things. One is com, this is the Java package, and the next part is the public. So this is the React.js part. So this contains everything related to the React.js. So what this package did is, the command did is, it internally used the plugin which I shown you, right, in the first part, like, so this is the plugin, front end maven plugin. So when we do package, what it will do is, it will go and run this and builds, it will run the npm build. So once it runs that npm build in the UI folder, so whatever the files generated under this build folder, under the UI and under the build folder, all these files will be copied into the jar file. So here that comes into the public, so and all this whole classes is compressed into this file, right? So that's what happens. So now we have both UI and the backend in a single jar. So that's what we did here. Let's check this item, and finally we can execute this jar and see what happens. Okay, so I will go back to the editor. I will open console. Before we run this application, let's stop our UI and Spring Boot, which was already running in the backend, right, backside. So let me stop that. So both are stopped. Now let's clear this screen. Now we will run the jar file. So for that we can go into target, because the jar file is existing in this folder. Now we can directly give Java, directly execute Java command here by passing the name of the jar file. So now let's execute it. So this is starting Spring application. Now it is saying application is started and the port number is 8080. Let's go to our browser here. Now this will not run because we already stopped this process, so it is taking a lot of time, so that is not existing now anymore. So let's directly hit to 8080. Now you see this page is loaded on port 8080. So now UI page, UI and the backend both are running on a single port, and they are running on a single jar, and we successfully created application within a single folder, and we are ready to publish this. So we have full front end to back end application ready. So let's go back to our checklist. Let's see if there is anything else. So let me check this item. We completed all the items in this checklist, and finally we generated a single jar file. So hope this helps someone who is trying to learn integrating this React.js and Spring Boot applications, right? Please comment if you have any questions so I can respond back. And finally, thanks for watching this video. Bye.